Good morning. I'm Berks County Commissioner Christian Leinbach, and I want to welcome you to our operations meeting for March the 11th. I won't point out who did that. He's no saint. You'd have to be here beforehand to understand anything about that comment. We are broadcasting live via Microsoft Teams live event, and we're also in person. At this time, I'll recognize my executive assistant, Veronica Lepore, to read the public comment policy.
Good morning. Thank you. Public comment will be accepted in person and through the Q&A function. Please include your first name, last name, and municipality for all comments. Any comments without name and municipality will not be considered. Each citizen can submit one comment. Comment length is dictated by limitations of the platform being used, Teams Q&A. In-person comments will be accepted first, followed by comments submitted virtually. The meeting comment period is limited to a total of 30 minutes, including both in-person and virtual comments. This time period may be extended at the discretion of the board. Please be concise. Comments that are germane to county business will be read during the meeting and should not be considered to be interactive dialogue with the commissioners. The county solicitor shall be the final arbiter of whether a comment is germane and should be read. Any commissioner response to public comment will be done at the discretion of the commissioners.
Thank you very much. Are there any additions or corrections for the February 11th operation meeting minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. Do we have any public comment on the agenda items? And nothing online? I wasn't able to connect online. So we have three presentations today, and I might switch the order. One of the presenters is not quite here. I just texted her, so we'll be okay. But the three presentations, the first is from Elaine Schaefer and Kent Heimlight from Schuylkill River Greenways. They're going to be providing us an update on the Schuylkill River Trail here in Berks County. Secondly, we'll hear from Erin Gantz, Vice President of Economic Development and Strategy of the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. She is going to be discussing, actually reporting on work from 2024 and plans for 2025. And then we'll hear from Laura Jones, our Deputy Director of Budget and Finance, for a 2024 fourth quarter fiscal update. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the order. Are you okay with that, Erin? You ready to rock and roll? We are going to begin with Erin Gantz, Vice President of Economic Development and Strategy with GRCA, wherever you're most comfortable.
You're cool.
Thank you, Malcolm. Malcolm in the middle or Malcolm on the spot, our IS guy. Count on him a lot.
Okay, well, Lucine, we were also waiting. Lucine was on her way, so.
Okay,
but
not a problem.
But I will say what she was going to say this morning. Anyways, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on GRCA's economic development efforts. We appreciate the County of Berks' generous support, which along with funding from over 45 private sector, there they are, private sector economic development investors allows us to carry out our vital work. Our organization is committed to being a strong partner with the county, ensuring that businesses in Berks have the resources and opportunities they need to grow and succeed. Some of our investors. At GRCA, our team advances, connects, engages, and champions economic development in collaboration with the public and private sectors. We do this through financing, site selection, workforce training, leadership development, advocacy, and networking opportunities. While my focus today is on our economic development work, I think it's essential to recognize the full work and range of GRCA's resources and initiatives that really strengthens the economic development work that our team does. A key example is the alignment between GRCA's advocacy agenda and our economic development priorities. Because economic development is not just about attracting and retaining jobs and people, it's also about ensuring that the right policies, infrastructure, and funding are in place to support sustainable growth where businesses and people thrive. Oops. So we are going to talk a little bit about 2024 because I didn't have the opportunity to do that until today, and then I'll transition the end of the presentation to talk about 2025. In 2024, our team worked with over 119 industry diverse companies. 90 of those companies were Berks-based companies. We were looking at challenges and opportunities and connecting those businesses to resources. These companies represent more than 14,000 new and retained jobs in our community. One of the most impactful ways we support Berks County businesses is by connecting them to capital and funding resources through our affiliate Greater Berks Development Fund. And if our products don't fit, then we connect them with other resources. At the end of 2024, we had $3.8 million in approved project lending and grants to support businesses like Newcastle Lawn and Landscape, Right Nower, numerous ag-based companies, and projects in our Main Street communities, such as the Kutztown Strand Theater. These investments help our companies grow, create jobs, and strengthen the economic foundation of our community. We focus on key industries such as manufacturing, healthcare, and agriculture, and we've seen really exciting momentum over the last 12 to 18 months in these industries. In October, we hosted the 10th Annual Manufacturing Summit. Several of you attended that. We attracted over 150 attendees and featured discussions on workforce retention strategies and automation. We also had the honor of recognizing Bob Harrop, who retired from East Penn Manufacturing for his decades-long contributions to not only manufacturing, but our community at large. We expanded the healthcare industry partnership, and we're doing this in partnership with the Workforce Development Board to address career pathways and workforce shortages. In collaboration with the Berks County Department of Ag, the Grow Together Berks campaign and website featured over 250 farms, generated 1.2 million impressions, and reached more than 130,000 people in our community through social media. The local food directory on growtogetherberks.com continues to be a valuable tool for connecting people and consumers with local products. Beyond industry-specific initiatives, we remain committed to supporting businesses in our Main Street communities throughout the county. GRCA facilitates regular meetings with Main Street leadership, ensuring that small businesses have access to tools, funding, and support that they need. And speaking of tools and resources, for small businesses, GRCA leads the Elevate Berks collaborative that unites more than a dozen small business and entrepreneurial resource providers. And this group meets regularly to share information, align initiatives, and expand their collective impact. And of course, we take time to celebrate business success. In 2024, GRCA celebrated over 37 ribbon cuttings with varying businesses throughout our community. So opening a business is just one piece of the puzzle. Long-term success depends on talent attraction and retention, and our organization is committed to marketing Greater Reading as a dynamic place to live, work, learn, and thrive. And we want to make sure that it's an easy decision for people and businesses to choose our community. Through the Meet Greater Reading platform, we highlight what is next and best in our community, telling the story of our affordability, outdoor amenities, career opportunities, arts and culture, and business growth. So instead of businesses having to sell the region, we're doing that for them so that they can focus on their company and hiring the best candidates possible. We're proud to continue our collaboration with the Berks County Department of Community and Economic Development, as well as the Workforce Development Board on several things, but particularly investment and sharing in powerful data-driven tools such as Placer AI, Jobs EQ, and Jobs EQ. And I will share with you the Q4 2024 report that just came out from the Lancaster EDC Center for Regional Analysis. They've been producing reports for us throughout 2024 and will continue to do so in 2025 because we think sharing data is really critical so people and policymakers can make informed decisions. And of course, transportation and infrastructure remain critical to all of our work. And we continue to support the passenger rail restoration efforts, working alongside the Schuylkill River Passenger Rail Authority on transit-oriented development and local advocacy efforts. And I'm really pleased to sit on the marketing committee of the Reading Regional Airport and Reading Aviation as that continues to grow as a critical asset in our community. So looking ahead to 2025, we'll continue to focus on driving growth in key industries, manufacturing, healthcare, and agriculture, aligning with state and local economic development priorities and plan implementation, such as Imagine Berks, and recently the growing Berks plan, the roadmap, which I believe Pam presented on a couple of weeks ago. There we go, it's moving. We are also committed to expanding access to capital, bringing more PETA loans and grant opportunities to businesses in Berks, and ensuring they have the resources to invest and grow and create jobs. Equally important is how we will continue to market our community as a place where businesses and people can thrive. This year, we will focus more on engaging college students, strengthening internship connections, and fostering deeper ties between our young people in our community and the business community so that the next generation sees this as a great place to both live and work. And finally, when I get to the slide, I want to invite you to save the date for the Building Berks Awards and Expo on Tuesday, September 9th at the Galgaworks Center for the Arts. I love this event. It happens every other year, and it's a time where we celebrate investment through construction and real estate development projects that have positively impacted our community. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to provide you with an update and welcome your comments and questions.
Any comments or questions from my colleagues?
Just want to thank you for the report and for the partnership that GRCA has with the county. Said this before, there's not one organization or one group that could do all of this work by themselves. So it's great to be able to work together to help grow Berks County. So I thank you for that. One thing I did like is the focus on the college students and the youth in the area with 6 institutions of higher education in Berks County. Want to make sure that the kids that are coming here and studying here, at least a great part of them stay here within Berks County, and also those that are from Berks County and go elsewhere to study, hopefully bring them back to Berks County to work at what they studied. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I also want to thank you for the partnership, not just with the county. We have a wonderful contractual relationship with the county of Berks and Greater Reading Chamber Alliance, but you also deserve credit for the work that you've done with the county, with the city of Reading on the railroad station. That brought us to, I think, the right conclusion that Franklin Street Station is the location of the new and the old passenger railroad station. Your leadership there has been invaluable. I see Pam just joined us. Pam is your main contact in her role as our Director of Community and Economic Development. And I know she'll agree that GRCA has been a great convener between the county planning, the city of Reading, GRCA, and passenger rail. I know that now you're working intently with the city and planning and Pam on the TOD. And I'm trying to think what meeting I was at recently where I saw my first map of the proposed transit-oriented development overlay for Reading. Those are critical pieces in the overall puzzle. A lot of people are just focused on when's the train going to come, but there are a lot of things that have to happen in advance of that. And I also want to thank you and GRCA for your more recent focus and exposure of the Reading Regional Airport. Having the commissioners with the breakfast event there, I think was eye-opening to many people. We heard from a lot of people that said, wow, we didn't realize some of the things that are happening at the Reading Regional Airport. So we appreciate the partnership. When your President and CEO, Lucine Sahelnik, shows up, if sometime after 10, just give her a heads up. We're going to allow her an opportunity, probably between the next two presentations, to share any comments that she would like to share with the commissioners and obviously with the public. Commissioner Santone.
Just very quickly, thank you for your presentation, Aaron. One of the slides mentioned warehousing and storage. Is there a I know that tends to be a little somewhat controversial sometimes with everyone warehousing issues in communities. Does the GRCA have like when someone comes to you, what advice do you have? A strategy, a plan, or how you handle that issue?
Coming to me, the warehouse or the community or the municipal
Community.
officials. We actually have not proactively sought out warehousing. It's just happened organically in those corridors close to the interstate. And certainly, if they have, we've wanted to align with where the growth areas are in the county and where it fits in the zoning for whichever municipality. We've really seen warehousing slow down though in our community. So that was just a sample report, Commissioner. So
Right.
That was just
a sample report.
Sample report. So
Thank you.
thank you.
And a lot of the warehousing isn't what people think it is. They're the huge building that's going up right now at 73 and 61. I know people think it's a warehouse, but it's going to be manufacturing. Right now are trailers. Pam, are they one of the largest in North America?
Mhm.
The or one of? Yeah, and they're based here in Berks County, still family owned, just pretty exciting. So people see a big building going up and the assumption is it's warehousing. That's not always the case. It can be other things. In this case, major manufacturing and major expansion. They're based down in Birdsboro right now, I believe.
Yeah.
And this is going to be an expansion. So
Yes, a 500,000 square foot building. We
Yep.
think it's probably one of the largest recent manufacturing buildings that's being constructed. So it's exciting.
very good. Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you very much.
So we are very pleased to have Elaine Schaefer with us. And Kent, I don't know. Yeah, I know that's Kent right there. Kent used to work for our conservation district. And I think he went on to bigger and better things. I love the conservation district and enjoyed working with him, but you're a part of the team here and we're very pleased to have you. So Elaine, I assume you'll introduce the rest of your folks here on the team. Very glad to have you. Not a problem.
Mike's not on.
Okay, is that mic not on?
I think it was turned off, actually.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
There we go.
So thank you so much for hosting us here today and allowing us to do a little catch up. I'm here with my whole team on our Trails Department. Kent Himmelwright, we stole him away from Berks County, I'm afraid, from the Conservation District, but his years of training with the Conservation District are going to serve the trail and the river well. Jacob Gardner is our Trails Program Manager, and he does a lot of the maintenance and cleanup and planning for the trail and programming. And then Tim Fenchel is our Deputy Director. And we're really pleased to be here. We're here today really to just catch you up with a bunch of projects that we have going on the trail. As you know, our mission is pretty broad and it involves the river and the trail, and we connect people to the river with all sorts of programming and projects that clean up the river. But today we are really here to talk about the trail and especially 3 projects that we have going on right now in Reading. Now, am I controlling this? Yes, I am. Okay. The trail, as you know, for those of who are listening who might not be familiar, when it is finished, the Schuylkill River Trail will be 120 miles, starting in Philadelphia and ending at the end of the river, the headwaters of the river in Frackville. Right now, about a little over 80 miles are complete, and there are a little under 40 miles to build. The miles that need to be built are in Berks County and in Schuylkill County. And Schuylkill River Greenways, we are the organization that is tasked with spearheading this effort. Most of all the building that's happening now is between Reading and Hamburg, and then in Schuylkill County. The reason that we are focusing so much on Reading right now is that come the end of this summer, the trail will be complete from Philadelphia to Reading. As it stands right now, there's a mile that's incomplete when you enter Pottstown in Montgomery County. So what is happening is the thousands and thousands, last year's count was 80,000 trips of people who are coming through Chester County, through to Montgomery County. They stop at the edge of Pottstown where there's a big sign that says turn around, and they go back. All of those people will now be coming through Pottstown up into Reading. So trail traffic is going to increase dramatically when this happens. And the good news is Montgomery County, who is running that project and building that connector, is they've let out they've hired a contractor, they're ready to go, and it's an 8-month project. So that should be finished within about 8 months. You know, who knows with construction, but within about 8 months that should be connected. And we want Reading to be ready for all of this traffic, and for this traffic to come into Reading and through Reading instead of turning around at the edge of Reading. So that is what our 3 projects in Reading, that's the drive behind that. This is a slide that shows the 3 projects all together, and then I'm going to go into each one separately. From the bottom of your screen, you can see the Reading Gateway Bridge, and that is one of the projects that we are working on. And the color coordination there is the yellow is already built, the red is what needs to be worked on. Then the through Reading Area Community College campus, there's a section that needs to be built that we're calling the Front Street section. Then there is a built section, the yellow, which is Industrial Boulevard. The city of Reading already built that, so that's there. And then leading up and out of the city is the Reading Riverview section, which, if you're familiar with that area, there is a trail there. However, it is not up to the standards of the circuit trail system, and it needs to be moved away from the river. It needs to be widened. It needs to be lit. It needs to be made more safe and welcoming, and brought up to the standards of the rest of the Schuylkill River Trail so that it can, you know, become busy and frequented like the rest of the trail. I'm going to start with the Front Street section because this is the one that's the farthest along. So when you come over the Reading Gateway Bridge, which a lot of people call the Rack Bridge, but it is not the Rack Bridge. Rack does not own it. The county of Berks County owns it, and we have an easement for the Schuylkill River Trail over it.
For the record, though, Rack gave it to us, so we still call it the Rack Bridge.
They do not like us to call it the Rack Bridge.
I know they don't. They hate it being called the Rack Bridge.
So we are renaming it the Reading Gateway Bridge for now. Anyway, when you come over the Reading Gateway Bridge, that brings you onto basically a little park and then onto the Reading Area Community College campus. You'll take a left onto Front Street, and then that section of trail, as you can see in this drawing, is going to be on road. They're going to make Front Street. We are going to make Front Street 2 lanes, and then there'll be a separated by a buffer lane for the trail. Now, this just demonstrates this particular plan is in the RAC master plan. So we've been working with them on this for a very long time, and everyone's on the same page, and they've been really great partners. We are at the point now where we are finishing up the engineering for this section. Schuylkill River Greenways raised all of the money privately to pay for the engineering, which was around $90,000. As you can see from these sources, these are all private foundation and foundation sources where we got the money. We hired TPD to do the engineering. That should be finished in the next week. And when that's finished, we'll be using that engineering to support a construction grant from DCNR's C2P2 program. We have asked the city of Reading to be the applicant on that program. They're a stronger applicant. The whole project, we haven't seen the cost estimates yet, but it should be between 800 and 900 and 800,000 and $1 million. C2P2 will cover half of it. We will raise money for the second half of it, but to get the grant, we have committed half of the match, and we've asked the city of Reading to commit half of the match. So that application should go in April, and we hopefully will hear, yes, you've got the money next fall, and then we will, if all goes well, we'd start construction either late fall or the spring of 2026. So that is the plan for Front Street. Next, I'm going to bring us up to Reading Riverview. This is in a slightly earlier stage. We have had a feasibility study conducted by Peter Simone. It's almost finished, and we'll have a public meeting to present it in the next month in Reading. What we have done is found another alignment that works better with the type of trail we need. As again, we've straightened it out, and we've taken it away from the water in places. This is a little more complicated because it involves the railroad, Norfolk Southern. So we will, once we get to the point where we are ready to move forward with engineering, we'll be doing some negotiating with Norfolk Southern. And that's always challenging. We will be applying for a grant for the engineering of this. That we have the feasibility study, but it's not engineered. We will be applying for the engineering funding through DCED, their Greenways, Trails and Recreation Program, this year. So if we get that, then the engineering would occur late 26, 27. And then we would be raising money for construction the year after that. So that is the Reading Riverview section.
So one note, when you have to deal with Norfolk Southern, reach out. We may be able to help since we're working with them relative to passenger rail.
Excellent. We will definitely do that because we could use all the help we could get on that front.
Not a problem.
So that is just the timeline that I just went through. As I said, this is a little bit farther behind the Front Street section. Lastly, in Reading, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Gateway Bridge. This is even farther behind in planning. This bridge already exists, as you know well. It is, thank you to the county for doing a study about its stability and structure, I think about a year ago. The trail already goes through here. The project here is really to improve and enhance and elevate this bridge. Right now, the experience for a user using this bridge is not pleasant. You can't even see the river. It's just not I think I do have a picture of what it looks like now. Over on the left is what it looks like now. The county, thank you very much, came in a year or so ago, maybe 18 months ago, and addressed a lot of the safety issues here. So it is safe right now. It's just not a pleasant experience. We want to do a grand public art architecture project on the bridge to transform it into really a work of art that this would be a destination part of the trail where people would travel to say, oh, let's do that section of the Schuylkill River Trail in Reading. I heard about that really cool bridge. Along the lines of, if you've ever been to London, the Millennium Bridge, people travel to go to these great sites, and this would be the entrance to Reading on the trail. And here are some pictures of other interesting bridges that have been built other places that have architectural features that make them destinations. This project is in the very beginning. We have applied for an NEA grant for $50,000, which requires a match, which we are fundraising for. We did apply for a Norfolk Southern Foundation grant for that match, and we did not get it, but we will keep trying. I've listed the partners here: Goggleworks, Barrio Alegria, the county, RAC, the city, just a whole host of partners. And this process will be, the $100,000 that we're raising will be a public input, public workshops, getting public input from the neighborhoods around, from Reading, what they want to see, putting their input in, then hiring an engineer to see, is it possible, what people have envisioned, and then putting together some preliminary plans. So this $100,000 would get us through the idea, putting it on paper, getting it engineered, and then we would have to go out and raise money for the construction. And it's a long timeline. We wouldn't even be able to use this money until July, and I think we had estimated about a year for the public process to come up with the idea and engineer it. I just briefly want to take you out of Reading for a moment. We are also working on the sections in Berks leaving after you leave Reading. Leaving Reading after you get through the Reading Riverview Park, we will be going up through these, and these come from our feasibility study, which you have seen, which we completed in 2023. We will be going through Cartech on the east side of the river, and then up to First Energy Stadium to connect that stadium to the trail, and then back over towards the river. The next section goes through Muhlenberg and then crosses over to, there's just a ton of alignment in Bern Township. For the way the river runs, it's a lot of trail to be built in Bern Township. This section at Kelly's Lock to Laurel Run has been built. Muhlenberg, that was one of the first projects to come out of the feasibility study, and Muhlenberg jumped right on it and built that section already. And then the Reading to Hamburg section, going up at the top into Hamburg to where the Bartram Trail starts, the section that's already built. There are actually a couple of different possibilities up there. The best one, again, is on rail property. So we will be working with the rail to see if we can make that work.
And that's Andy Muller, Reading.
That is Reading Northern up there.
Yep.
And for all of these sections, all of the sections from Reading up, we're at the section of negotiating with landowners and getting acquisition. So that's the very first step, and we are trying to find, the lowest hanging fruit, the landowners that want to work with us, and that's where we'll do our next efforts after Reading. I just wanted to talk about a couple of the projects that we've just finished or are doing in Berks County right now. As I mentioned, our nonprofit organization, we own about 37 miles of the trail now in Berks County and Schuylkill County, 5 river bridges, and we're the ones responsible for maintaining it. Those bridges are expensive. The Doberstein Bridge, we have just learned, has been compromised, and we have to fix it. We've gotten initial estimates of about $60,000. We had a crew of volunteers come out and temporarily shore it up, but we are now getting the engineers' estimates to how we are going to permanently fix it. We did just, as you all know, the Douglasville Bridge has had a log jam that was really a landmass, and we spent $180,000 to clean that up, which we did last summer. And so far, so good. It has been kept clear, although we keep a constant eye on it. And when it has a few logs coming up, we will go out there and remove them. This is some pictures of when we had the log jam removed. And I'll note that all of this maintenance money is not grant money. We have tried and tried and tried. It's just impossible to get grant money for the maintenance costs. I wanted to also mention, I want the commissioners to be aware, in case you were not, that we are federally funded. And we are part of the National Heritage Area System. We receive $500,000 a year in federal funding to do our work. I included this slide because it shows how much of our operating budget is federal funding. We match the federal dollars 5-to-1 from other sources, but we depend on the federal dollars. They go towards staff and maintenance and operations. And our biggest expense is maintenance of the trail. I am putting this out there because our funding is at risk. And we did lose our funding temporarily when there was a pause. We did get our 2024 funding reinstated, and we're waiting to hear if we get 2025 funding. I'm putting just out on the radar that if we don't get the 2025 funding, we will have to retract what we are able to do, including maintaining the trail. So because it is our single biggest expense. So we don't have to deal with that right now. It has not happened. Hopefully it never will. But it would be remiss of us not to put it on everyone's radar that this is a possibility. We are doing some contingency planning for it, and things will have to really change if we lose our federal funding. We can't operate the way we do. We are also running a stewardship fund campaign that I wanted to mention. I know I've mentioned this to you before. This is we are raising $5 million over 5 years. We are 2.5 years in. We are at almost $2.5 million, so we are on pace. What the campaign is to raise a $5 million endowment that will be parked in an account and throw off enough earnings and income to pay for the maintenance going forward sustainably forever and ever, so that we don't have to take it out of our operational budget. That's the plan. We're halfway there. We hope to get there. Last thing I want to say is a big thank you to the county for your support. And we have, just recently we've done a few projects together. We have, you're helping fund, the Berks Imagine program is helping fund Reeser's Landing, which is going to be a great new.
That's down in Exeter?
In Exeter Township. And we've really appreciated that help. That grant paid for the engineering and hopefully will pay for some of the construction. And you also applied on our behalf to an LSA grant to pave some of the trail. There are some sections of trail that have to be paved because year after year they get washed out. And this is a really important section of trail up by Brentwood that needs to be paved, and it's very expensive. So on the county at our behest has put in an LSA application. So if you can advocate for that at all, that would be great. And I think that is all I have. I have the answers to anybody's questions sitting right here who could answer absolutely anything about the trail.
Comments, questions from my colleagues?
Very quickly, hello, Elaine, good to see you.
How are you? It's nice to see
I've
you.
been seeing you on billboards and on TV. I haven't been seeing you in person. Saw you last summer. She's famous.
So not.
Anyway, on the federal, you answered, I think you answered most of my question about the federal freeze money. Is that money that's been appropriated that has been frozen, or is that potentially the future appropriations? What is that money?
The money that has been appropriated, we now have access to. We did have it frozen, but only for a week or 10 days. Then it was released. The money we're waiting for now, we have our 2025 work plan submitted. That has not been appropriated yet. If there's a continuing resolution, which it looks like there will be, and we are awarded our work plan, hopefully it gets appropriated under the 2025 budget that is under a continuing red. That's the best case scenario. That's what we're all hoping for. And we're seeing signs that may be what happens. Fingers crossed. If that happens, that gets us through another year, and we can continue operating the way we do.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. March 14th is the deadline.
Right.
It's right in front of us. And my understanding is the House has at least preliminary agreement on a CR through September. And that basically continues us at the levels we are. It sounds like they're going to put their main focus in a full, hopeful annual. It's been a while since we've gotten a full annual budget. It's just everything seems to be CRs for quite a long time, not just under this president, multiple presidents, but we will see. Keep our eyes open.
Our fingers are crossed, and if it is a CR situation, that actually is good for us.
Right.
So, which is unusual.
So don't you have some special dates coming up in June that you want to tell us about?
Of course, thank you for that. We have our 27th annual Schuylkill River Sojourn coming up. It's June 14th to June 21st. This is a 7-day kayak sojourn. It's usually about 250 people participate. We start up in Schuylkill Haven and then 7 days later end up in Philadelphia. It's really an incredible opportunity for people to participate and get to know the river, start a relationship with the river. You can do it for all 7 days, or you can do it for 1 day. And often we have commissioners join us either at lunch or on the river. I know, Christian, you have for a few days.
So I think you'll see additional folks on the river. I believe it's Monday, the 16th of June, if I recall.
Oh, I'm so
starting
thrilled.
at Jim Dietrich Park. So last year, Barbie Lopez and I went. We had such a great time. We wished we had planned to be on it the whole day. We only did a half day, so we're planning to do the entire day that Monday. And I think I'll put him on the spot. Are you going to go?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yes, he's been
Yeah.
out with us.
Deliverance is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Come on.
Well, there's on
Okay,
that note, Deliverance in the Schuylkill River. I don't know. That was the Chattooga River in northern Georgia, but are you in?
I will be, excuse me, I will be there, and I'll need a kayak for one, because he already said that he was going with Barbara, so I'm by myself that day, so I need a kayak for
Excellent.
one.
Now, don't forget
So-
that particular day, starting out at Jim Dietrich, is a crazy hat day.
It's
So,
Crazy Hat Day.
yes,
Yeah,
it is.
I wore a cowboy hat last year.
yes. Well, you have an open invitation.
So-
Whoever would like to join us, it really
Barbie,
is.
you're
an
going
amazing
again?
event.
Veronica, are you going? Lynn?
This is all recorded. We now have a record of
So
this.
what I did hear, Elaine, I knew that all but two had said yes. So now I have them saying yes on television, on the record.
I'll be there.
You got that on the record?
Love it. Love it.
I have two canoes, so Mitch, are you gonna go?
We can get you a
I can
kayak.
get you a
I'll
kayak.
get you one,
Yep,
Mitch.
that does not work as an excuse.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Good.
And
Good.
then I have two canoes
Excellent.
with the stuff, so. No, I've spoken there every year, I believe, since I've been in office. It's a great event. People enjoy it. I am hopeful we continue to get rain, because I can tell you this last time there were several spots, the canoe, now maybe it was my weight, but our canoe was dragging.
Right.
And I would say a week or two later, there were sections people would have been walking, not
Yep.
kayaking.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it was very hot last year.
Yep.
So
I
we're
didn't think it
hoping
was
for
that
better.
bad. I've seen it hotter, and the bugs weren't bad.
No, no.
So, but it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of great people. There are people that do the whole thing. There's people that do a couple of days. It's just,
Yep.
it's a great event.
And beyond just the people who do it, it really serves our mission in that
Mhm.
we get a lot of regional attention. We're in the morning news, we're in the newspapers, so people all over the region read about this, and wow, we have a river that you can kayak on. Maybe this Schuylkill isn't as dirty as I thought it was. It really
isn't.
does help us elevate the attention and the investment and engagement with the river.
For those that grew up in the area, the river was in the 60s, almost dead. You didn't eat fish out of it if you could catch fish. And a lot of environmental regulations. I know sometimes from a business perspective, we take shots at the EPA, and probably sometimes it's deserved, but environmental regulation cleaned up the river.
Well,
There's no doubt about it.
I can't help but just a 30-second history lesson. The Schuylkill River was the first site in the United States of America of a federal cleanup project.
Didn't
And that
know
was in the 1950s, late 40s and 50s. It was called the Schuylkill River Project. That's what all the dams are.
Yep.
and all the coal silt was removed from the river. It was a huge 8-year project. And that was really the beginning of the rebirth of the river and turning it into what it is now.
And if you're able to go on the river, for me, you find a different perspective. At times you're not even sure where you are, because most people's references looking at the river from one bank or the other bank, or looking at it from the highway. It's a really great experience.
It is. So everybody come join us.
We're looking forward to it. We'll get everyone signed up.
Now, if I do this one, I won't be able to do the other one. So I can't do 2 in a year. So just
20 years.
He doesn't want to, we have our annual CCAP conference at Seven Springs, and we're doing the Upper Yacht,
Oh, boy.
which is kind of deliverance like class 4 and 5 rapids. And this guy now he's going to do this, so he gets out of having to do the Upper Yacht.
Well, something I will tell you about marketing that I thought he would do a better job being in marketing.
Oh, yeah.
But when he talks about this, he tells you about how one person fell out, almost drowned, how his wife fell out, almost drowned. And then he said, would you like to do it with me the next time? Like,
I'll push you
no, no, ask first and then tell me about the people who almost drowned.
So Ken, doesn't that make a story much more interesting? Yeah, it does.
Well, if you fall out in the Schuylkill in most spots, you just
can
stand
walk.
up.
Yeah.
Walk to the shore. Not every place, so don't count on that.
Right, right.
Wear your life jacket, life preserver. And I will point out, we've had people drown in the Schuylkill River. You got to take it seriously. And actually, what's more dangerous than low water is high water. And that's probably the only time you would outright cancel if the water was really high.
If
Yes.
it's too high and moving too fast, we cancel that day.
Because that can be dangerous, especially around the bridge piers. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, we are looking forward to it as well. And thank you so much. And
Thank
you know
you.
where to find us if you ever have any questions or follow up or want more information.
Yeah, but definitely work with us on Norfolk Southern, and even Andy Muller. You know Pam Mennett, our Director of Community and Economic Development. She will be a good resource. Exchange cards before you leave
Definitely.
today.
Great.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to your team. Okay, we have Lucine Sahelnik here. Lucine, if you want to step up to the microphone. I gave her a heads up. I texted her when she came in. So Lucine, feel free to share. Lucine is the president and CEO of the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. And her former life, she was a Berks County commissioner.
Way back when.
Yeah. Seems like yesterday to me.
Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me the opportunity to speak, and good morning to you, to our solicitor, our row officers who are here, and everybody. I know that my colleague Erin has already presented to you on the good work that we strive for to accomplish in 2024, and also a little bit of a preview of 2025. There are 3 points that I would like to add to everything that she had presented. First, to Elaine, thank you for the work that you're doing, because it leads right into my first point. Personally, I love, as a family, my husband and my now 7-year-old son, to take what you're calling the Gateway Bridge, or that pedestrian bridge over the Schuylkill River right into Riverfront Park, because we live in Reading over by the Reading Public Museum. We ride over that bridge with our bikes, and we go to the Reading Public Library, which is our main branch on 5th Street. So for us, any kind of beautification project that you're talking about, especially with engaging the community aspect, is critical. The development of the SRT is critical for our community, not just because of those who live here and, you know, what we want to accomplish in our life and enjoy our lifestyles. It's also a point of talent attraction and retention. So when we have something like that, our job is a lot easier through Meet Greater Reading to talk to people about why you would want to come move your family here or relocate here to work here and establish a life and truly enjoy it. It's that recreational piece that the quality of living is really important. Also the beautification and the placemaking. Here's why that's additionally important. The commissioners and I, we've been talking over the past year, it has been over a year since I've been in this job, that there are some significant events occurring in 2026 and 2027 that continue to tie along with the important work that our Visitors Bureau is doing to making sure everybody knows about these cool things that we have here in Berks County and Greater Reading. So when we have global visitors descending upon Philadelphia and the East Coast next year for all the different types of events like FIFA, the 250th celebration that I know, Commissioner, you're working on behalf of Berks, all the way across Pittsburgh, we know that globally visitors will be coming and looking for opportunities, just like you're talking about, the bikeability of being able to bike and visit something like a skate park, to see what Berks County has to offer in an active, fun way is critical. Also, the Sojourn. Imagine putting that on the list of things to do from somebody who is visiting from another country and being able to participate in something like that. I don't know where else you could do something like that, and that is a key thing that we need to offer. So keep up the good work. That ties directly into what we do at Greater Reading Chamber Alliance and networking with our community partners, your community, your county, community and economic development department and team. We work together. Thank you for affording us the opportunity to do that. The second point that I'd like to emphasize is really the support and attention on agriculture as a growth sector in our community. With your ag plan and with the hard work of Pam and her team, we look forward to working on the aspects that we've been identified as partners on. And I'm really pleased because it aligns with our governor's plan. It aligns with the economic development plan that he's put forth. It aligns with the budget, in the areas. So again, talking about being in sync and focusing together on what will have the greatest economic impact, right? And our industries here, especially in Berks County. So I really appreciate that, and we look forward to that work. And last but not least, if I can remember my last point without notes, is the economic development investment. We so much appreciate your large, considerable lead in being the investor for the work that we get to do with you as the CEDO. And that sets an example and a tone for others. So if Aaron was able to point out some of our investors and a number in the 40s in terms of these private entities that are contributing to, again, building and growing and thriving our economic development here in Greater Reading. What I have to add to that is we have a stronger goal this year, and by always presenting your investment first, it encourages and sets an example for other private businesses to get involved. And so we're using that and talking to an additional 20 businesses this year and private entities to continue to invest in the work that we're all doing together for economic development. That's it. I wanted to be brief. And if there are any other questions that Aaron can answer for you now, that we can answer for you at this time, we're happy to do so. But I look forward to continue to meet with you, alternating as we regularly do, which I appreciate, and our quarterly updates on our work together.
Thank you. Comments?
Good to see you. Thank you. You're invited you're invited on the Sojourn too.
So, yeah, the Sojourn, yes,
right.
but Commissioner Rivera, I could be your proxy for the Upper Yak. I would love that. So
Okay.
think about that. I'll give you that out.
There you go.
Okay.
Have you heard his? Oh, you've heard his story, right?
Oh, I know.
I'm not
but I
gonna tell
can't
that story now.
So I'm good.
So thank you very much. And
Thank you.
thank you for your leadership and your awesome team at GRCA.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Take care. Okay. One more item on the agenda, and we're doing great actually on time. We're 5 minutes ahead. So I'll introduce Laura Jones, our Deputy Director of Budget and Finance, for a fourth quarter 2024 update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having
Morning.
me. Our update is for 2024, January through December. We'll start with the 2024 adopted budget. We adopted the 24 budget with a $53.7 million deficit in the general fund and a $46.2 million deficit for all funds. For this discussion, we're going to focus on the general fund, which is where we calculate an operating deficit or surplus, which affects our county's tax rate. This slide shows how we differentiate between funding sources within the general fund to arrive specifically at the county's general fund operating deficit or surplus. For 2024, we had applied an 8% tax increase to balance our budget. And so how do we think we did? The Controller's Office is still making entries for the year-end close, and the actual results are currently not final and are not audited, but our projections show that we'll be ending the 2024 fiscal year with a $3.8 million surplus. This is a $3.8 million improvement from the adopted budget for 2024. Some of our greatest contributors include the COVID relief community payments. Concerning the community payments grants, the broadband project, and also Imagine Berks, we experienced slower than anticipated spending and have the unspent $23 million to carry over into the 25 budget. This is a timing variance. Please note these savings were planned to be funded with assigned fund balance and do not drop down to the operating budget surplus or deficit total. Capital, that's $3.9 million in savings as compared to the 24 adopted budget. This is a result of projects being completed at a slower rate than anticipated. This is a timing issue as many projects were deferred from the 23 budget for 24 for completion, and many of the 24 projects were deferred to future periods. We're projecting a gain of $2.3 million for unrealized gains and losses due to higher market value on our investment portfolio at 12/31/24. In interest revenue, our county's investing efforts pulled at $1.8 million better than our $7.8 million budget. This is mostly attributable to having a larger cash balance than anticipated, as unspent community payment funds or capital funds earn interest the longer they go unspent. Along with actively managing cash receipts and disbursements, these activities resulted in higher yields on our entire. Is that better? Oh, much better. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Salaries and benefits, we're projecting $1 million in total for salary and benefit savings, resulting primarily from vacancies and turnover in management confidential, part-time, AFSCME, and PSSU positions, which includes departments such as courts, information systems, CYS, the Prothonotari's office, and the solicitor's office. These wage savings were offset by higher Teamsters costs at the jail and higher fringe benefit costs resulting from higher pension costs in 2024, as well as higher workers' compensation costs compared to our budget. Please note that this variance is related to the general fund only and does not include the entire payroll savings for the county, which is a variance we'll see later in our cash review. Coca County contribution, this $500,000 of general fund savings resulted from reallocating unspent MHDD funds to Coca in lieu of general fund dollars. This reflects a positive outcome of fiscal monitoring and maximizing grant funds, resulting in general fund savings. Thank you to the director of MHDD, Pam Seaman, and her fiscal team for working with the budget office to provide good fiscal oversight. Real estate taxes, interims, and tax claim. In total, we're projecting about $100,000 higher total tax-related revenue, stemming from $0.7 million more in real estate taxes, offset by $0.6 million lower tax claim revenues. This is a result of higher assessed value growth, offset by better collections rate on current year taxes. And so along with better revenue or cost savings, we also did have some unfavorable projected variances with decreases to the projected surplus. And this includes a CYS JPO overmatch for 23-24. This variance reflects the uncertainty of the collection of reimbursement revenues, which is referred to an overmatch situation concerning Act 148 grant funds. During 22-23, our juvenile probation office started to experience a volume increase, and this continued into our 23-24 fiscal year as our number of JPO children being served further increased by 27%. Meanwhile, rate increases beyond the budget estimate were required by vendors, and therefore we exceeded the 23-24 Act 148 grant funds allocation by $1.7 million. Because we are not guaranteed by the state to be made whole for the overspending of those funds, Our auditors have indicated we must recognize this overage as county match funded until a determination is made by the state to apply these unspent statewide funds to the overmatch experienced by Berks. Therefore, we could recover this in future periods. However, we have to book this as a loss for 2024. Prothonotary e-filing fees correction. In 2024, we became aware of a statute associated with the collection of e-filing fees in the Prothonotary's office, which required the county to transfer those funds out of the general fund and into a special legislation fund for the accounting of those fees. This revenue cannot be used for general government purposes, and the correction was made in 24 to true up the balance of this fund from the inception of the e-filing fees program. This correction generates a one-time deficit of $0.9 million for 2024, as well as lower revenues available to the general fund for future use. We experienced a $0.4 million unfavorable variance concerning our county-operated youth shelter. This is resulting from the county match-related costs associated with opening our shelter in 2024. The decision was not made ahead of the 24 budget to open the facility until we were able to review allocation letters. And therefore, these results generate an unfavorable variance for 2024. The operating transfer pension, this $0.4 million unfavorable variance reflects the repayment of the pre-funded pension costs from special revenue departments. We've been able to bill for the difference in pre-funding our pension versus without pre-funding our pension. And we use that calculation as a reimbursement tool to match the benefit of pre-funding our pension to the periods for which it benefited. Based on actual pension performance values versus our budget estimate, this amount was lower for 2024. 2024 will be our last year of applying this calculation for reimbursement to the general fund. So in summary, we're projecting the county general fund to end with a $3.8 million surplus for the 2024 calendar year. This is the projected effect to the county unassigned general fund balance. Again, this does not reflect the savings of the community payments mentioned before, as this was planned to be funded with assigned fund balance, as well as capital, but otherwise includes the totals from above, as well as additional projections for many revenue and expenditure lines related to the general fund. I'm going to pause there. Any questions so far?
I think we're good.
We sort of moved from accrual basis accounting and year-end results into our cash results. This slide shows our general fund cash. As you know, our finance team does an extensive annual cash projection and monthly actual results variance analysis. We keep a close eye on the progression of cash in our organization and efforts to maximize cash on hand, which benefits our ability to earn interest revenue. Let's take a look at those results for calendar year 2024. This particular chart shows the combination of receipts and disbursements with cumulative totals representing the total general fund cash account balance. We started 2024 with a general fund cash balance of $218.5 million. We projected we would end at $166.3 million, but we ended at $199.9 million, which is about $34 million higher than we'd anticipated. And so what are the leading causes to our cash variance? First, we'll take a look at cash receipts. We had projected about $396 million of cash coming in. The actual receipts were $382 million, which is about $13.5 million lower than our projection. And so what are the leading causes of our cash receipt variances? According to our monthly cash variance analysis, the largest contributors were COCA. We had a $5.4 million favorable variance due to higher opioid settlement funds, prevention funds, SAPT federal funds, and other drug and alcohol related funding sources. In MHDD, we experienced a $3.8 million favorable variance, which was due to some unanticipated supplemental grant funding received in 2024, offset by reductions by our funding sources for prior years underspending. In the other general fund categories, this $1.5 million favorable variance is largely attributable to the insurance reimbursement we received for repairs of water damage at the CRC building. In interest, as mentioned in our budget projection, we saw increased cash from interest earnings throughout 2024, resulting in a $1.2 million favorable cash variance. Even though we had some higher than anticipated receipt categories, overall we experienced an unfavorable variance of $13.5 million, resulting predominantly from the following items below. CYS and JPO, we have a $14.3 million unfavorable variance, which is reflecting timing delays in submitting invoices for reimbursement for payments on all funds related to CYS and JPO. These delays have resulted from fiscal turnover and errors in submitted documentation, causing the state not to improve invoices for payment. These funds will be collected in 2025 as we continue to work diligently in correcting these issues. In Berks, this variance is the result of the MA IGT daily rate utilized for our projection being greater than the actual rate that was approved for 2024. Our cash forecast was done before the rate was approved. So this also includes some lower Medicare A revenues. The 2024 approved MA IGT rate decreased by 10% in comparison to the 23 rate. The unfavorable variance is partially offset by favorable variances in private pay and miscellaneous revenue categories. The average facility consensus for 2024, for 24 was 311.7. However, the census that we budgeted was to increase to 340 residents by year end. This was not achieved due to the state staffing ratios effective July 2024. And so as a result, we've revised our budget and cash projections for 2025 to a maximum census of 325. Taxes. This variance reflects the real estate taxes, interims, and tax claim revenues combined. From a cash basis, we were under our projection by $2.2 million. We continue to collect cash in the first 60 days of 2025, which is income recognizable and attributable then to 2024. So that is what partly kept us with a small positive variance in the accrual-based revenue for tax income. This reflects the combination of all other accounts under the receipts category that combine to a total unfavorable variance of $0.5 million. My next slide shows cash disbursements by month. Along with cash receipts, we project and track cash disbursements in detail. We projected $448 million in general fund cash disbursements. We saw $401 million in actual disbursements, creating a $47 million favorable variance. Let's look at those variances for 24. In our COVID relief community payment grants, we had $22.9 million cash disbursements than projected. These funds have been carried forward to the 25 budget and are expected to be spent in 25. Some grant awards have been rescinded and have resulted in alternative grants and funding projects being started. Capital projects, we saw an $18.1 million lower cash disbursement than anticipated, mostly due to the deferral of projects to future years. We had 83 separate projects, resulting in a favorable variance of $19.8 million, offset by $1.6 million unfavorable variance from 52 separate projects that required additional funding not included in our projection. I think the number of projects sort of speaks to the wealth of capital projects that we see here in the county. Payroll, this reflects all funds countywide. We continue to see labor shortages creating higher vacancies, which are partially offset by higher overtime. This variance would have been lower had the Teamsters union contract been finalized in 24 and their salary increases were included in compensation payments. For employee benefits, health costs, we saw a $1.5 million favorable variance due to higher than anticipated stop loss reimbursements, including reimbursements of claims from 2023. In our other general fund category, we have a favorable variance largely attributable to voided disbursements, and we had a lower than anticipated disbursements for the CRC contracted services related to remedying the property damage. For Berksheim, we have a favorable variance of $1 million, mostly attributable to lower than projected nursing agency costs. We had expected to use more agency services to support the projected census levels and fill vacancies. Given we did not reach the targeted census levels, we therefore also had lower variable costs related to the census, which also contributed to this favorable cash variance. Employment and training, we have a favorable variance of $0.8 million, which is due to lower contracted services disbursements. This is generally how this department spends down their grant funding, and the spending depends on community need and eligibility criteria. In utilities, we have a $0.7 million favorable variance for all utility cost projections, but natural gas is the lead contributor of $0.4 million favorable in this category, resulting from a refund on our jail CRC account stemming from a meter issue. Otherwise, we saw lower disbursements in electricity, telephone, trash, and air cards that also contribute to this variance. Tax refunds, we have a $0.6 million favorable variance, which reflects lower tax refunds provided via the tax appeal process via tax court in 2024. Coca County contribution, this favorable variance, again, we talked about this in our accrual basis projection, is due to the state MH funding being reallocated and paid directly to Coca, decreasing the funding required through the county contribution. This category, this sort of reflects all the other disbursements combined into this $500,000 favorable variance, resulting in lower disbursements. Much like cash receipts, in addition to favorable disbursement variances, we also have some unfavorable results, which are included in our total. This includes CYS JPO disbursements. This $1.5 million unfavorable variance is resulting from JPO. As discussed earlier, we have been experiencing a higher than anticipated cost in placements, resulting from both volume increases and contractor rate increases. COCA, consistent with the favorable receipt variance from additional grant funds received, we have an unfavorable disbursements variance to pass those funds through. This category is unfavorable for about $1.5 million for the unanticipated grant funds to COCA. Please note the variances are not the same for receipts and disbursements because as funds come to us, they are not pulled down by the same rate to be sent to COCA. Pension, the actual costs were higher than projected, as we'd mentioned earlier in our accrual basis review. We anticipated the annual determined contribution to the pension plan to be $3.6 million for 2024, but it was actually $4.7 million. And finally, workers' comp, we have an unfavorable variance of $618,000 resulting from settlements, as well as higher than anticipated open claims and medical procedures. This also includes higher than anticipated disbursements for safety services and supersedes and subsequent injury fund. All of these mentioned items combine and result into a $47.1 million favorable cash disbursements variance. And with that, I conclude our financial update. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. And so I bring it back to you, commissioners. Thank you.
So thank you very much for the presentation. I think this is the first one you're doing on your own this year.
As alone as in Bob not sitting next
Yeah.
to me? Yes, but he's online and
I
I'm
was-
sure he's got comments and questions.
We will not allow any comments from Bob today. This is your day. A couple of the areas that you've identified that had costs that were significantly greater, two stood out to me. One was billing issues with CYS JPO. Could you explain what exactly we're talking about? Is it timing? Is it
Sure.
something else?
So we have two things going on with CYS and JPO. We've mentioned them in our disbursements as being an unfavorable variance. We're paying out more for the cost to place kids, resulting from a volume increase and also contract rate increases for per diems to place children. So we're having a higher operating cost for that. The cash disbursements, the receipts variance, that is because of the timing delay in the state paying us for invoices submitted. And that's a result of some fiscal issues that we had and turnover in that department. We are remedying those issues. And so that $14.8 million we'll see on top of what will be normal payments during the 25 calendar year.
Okay.
So we are seeing higher costs, but we're also seeing a delay. We saw a delay in getting repaid for invoices that were submitted.
And then the other large one was Berksheim, and that's because of lower census. But I believe we're seeing some better hiring numbers at the Berksheim. Hopefully, we can see some improvement in census. Looking at the census, the number of residents. Prior to the pandemic, I think we were running around 410, 411. And I believe now we're running around 310 or so. So we're down about 100 residents. That's a significant cost. And the reality is we can only take residents that we're able to take care of from a staffing aspect. Is that anything that you've looked at?
Right. We're experiencing difficulties in accommodating what is that state ratio change. Because of that, it limits our ability to have a census at 410. So our 25 budget is more right-sized given our constraints in the ability to hire and how many beds to fill based on staffing. So we feel like 2025 is more of a right-sized version for Berksheim, and we hope to reach those goals. They're much smaller than 340 beds. We feel like it's a more obtainable goal.
And that staffing ratio went up, I believe, in July.
My understanding is
Or is
it's
it
gone
2
up
years?
twice. It was July of 23 and then again in 24.
And
Okay.
I believe it's set to go up again, and this is something that has been brought up to the state, and they have not wanted to look at it or address this need. It is a huge need, not only here in Berks County, but also throughout the Commonwealth.
Because it ends up, in the name of taking care of your residents, it ends up limiting access to residents who need this. I highlighted this before, but if the Heim, I don't want to say this because people will, the Heim has more Medicaid beds than the rest of the county combined. That's the key thing to understand. Those beds are critical for people who cannot afford private pay. And you might think, well, can't afford private pay. I have a dad that's been going through those challenges. Private pay is expensive. And many folks, especially folks that live longer, and I've gone through that, going through that with my dad. My wife and I went through that with her mother. They have a tendency to burn through all their assets and they have little to nothing left. And I'll tell you, the Heim is not the old-fashioned poorhouse or almshouse. It is a great place, and there are a number of people that on private pay, if they have to go to a long-term care facility, that's where they want to go because of the care, because of our volunteer organization. But when we have capacity for 100 more residents, but we can't take them because of we don't have enough staff, and we've gone through 2 consecutive years of what I believe is an arbitrary demand for ratio of staff per resident, and now facing it again, is something not right.
Right. It sure does limit our ability to serve.
So yeah, Bob has so Laura, here's the question. Bob has a comment on the Heim. Should we allow him? I'm going to let this decision in your hands. Okay, I won't put you in that spot. Bob Patrizio, you have a comment.
We have this 30-second timer for Bob. The 30-second timer. For
The issue we have is that we can't even get to 320 right now. The staffing ratio requirements they put in beginning July 1 of 23 and again in July 1 of 24 are really limiting us. And if we were going to do a budget today, not even sure it would be 325 beds for next year. And that really is not, to your point, Commissioner, it's not that there isn't need in the community. It's you get penalized heavily if you don't have proper staffing ratios on, and it's by shift, not by 24-hour period. So we're stuck in a range right now between 315, 320, generally a little lower than 320, and we had a budget for 25 at 325. So we're running behind our budget so far this year as well, and it's 100% the staffing ratios, the new staffing ratios.
Okay, thank you. That is helpful. Any other questions or comments for Laura?
Just want to thank you for the information. Great job.
Thanks.
I concur with that. This is the 5-year, I don't want to call it celebration, anniversary of COVID. And I know that there's some numbers on, could you speak to the dollar amounts related? Is that still coming, or is there money on our books? And where is that now with all the COVID dollars that we've received? And
So we saw a lot of COVID funds run through our human service departments, allocations that we'd not seen before. That is slowing down quite a bit. What I see now mostly is leftover allocations from prior years being spent down and reimbursed. We're still, and talk about this in most of our cash presentations, about the COVID-related community support grants. Those were funds that were assigned to benefit the community that we're just experiencing slower than anticipated distribution. In essence, it does allow for us to earn interest on those funds while we're waiting to disperse those. So it is important that we are managing the disbursement of cash for those projects. We're not funding them 100% up front. We're funding them intermittently so that as they reach project milestones, the county stands to benefit from the cash being in the bank longer while those projects progress.
Makes sense.
thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Is there any general public comment? I don't see anything online, nothing in person.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Meeting stands adjourned.